No, the time has not come to widen the scope of legal parentage, and I say that for three reasons. First, because those who are arguing for this motion ignore the simple fact that arguments over legal parentage often concern adult motives and not the interests of the children themselves. Second, because the question of legal parentage cannot be looked at in isolation. Small amendments to who is not a legal parent risks knock-on consequences for other areas of legislation, with potentially fundamental consequences. If I may be so bold, Natalie wishes you all to take a gamble with them. Third, in order to right what is you are told is a societal wrong in the current system, would, in my argument, inadvertently exacerbate other areas that are also of concern. All three arguments can be demonstrated with one example, that of child support. Children don't just need love. They need food, they need housing, they need toys, they need financial certainty, and a clear system which provides rules as to who should contribute towards their upbringing. This certainty is, to a large extent, provided at the moment under the child support regime under the 1991 Act as amended. In the event of separation, a non-resident parent is required to pay a proportion of their gross income to the resident parent. How much they pay is calculated via a formula. Currently, there is a system of relatively clear rules, which is so clear that it can be implemented by an agency rather than for every matter coming before the court. I am going to argue that changing what a legal parent is will impact not only who has to pay, but also how that would be calculated. In my argument, the system would collapse overnight. I start with my third point, if I may, because it's a brief one. Child support, non-payment of, is a huge issue. It has been an issue for decades. It's an issue that successive governments have grappled with. The most recent statistics from the ONS show that actually applications are up 10% from this time last year, and currently 360,000 children in this country have to have their maintenance collected because the paying parent isn't paying. There are currently 14,000 cases in this country where the Child Support Agency has to seek enforcement. That has a huge financial burden on the state, but it also doesn't help child poverty or indeed financial control of a weaker party. In my argument, this problem would only be exacerbated if we create new routes of argument over who should be paying and how we calculate what they should pay. At present, there is a degree of certainty provided by a strict set of rules, and perhaps this is an instance in which we need to be pragmatic. We are dealing with a minority of children for whom the majority would face uncertainty as to whom would provide for their financial needs. In terms of legal parentage, I've already said that one of my points is that the question of legal parentage cannot be looked at in isolation. But my first point is that legal parentage often concerns adult motives. As John E. Keller has observed, the truth of parenthood has been and still is used to give adults the power over children. This can be through obtaining parentage, often with a view to obtaining contact, but it can also be in terms of losing parentage with a view to avoiding the responsibilities that come with it. This is particularly so in the case of child maintenance. Those arguing for this motion assume that all adults involved want legal parentage, but that isn't always the case. This is nowhere better evidence than when money is involved. There was a case before the previous president. I'm sorry that none of the speakers tonight have quoted the current president. It does seem rather rude.
Well, Andrew did.
Did he? I apologise.
He's winning.
I'm going to quote Mr. Justice Mumby as he then was, or rather refer to his case in Re L, which was a case in which a father who had been a child's father for 14 years of her life suddenly decided after separation and having paid 2 years of child support that actually he may not be the father. The court made a declaration of non-parentage, and this 14-year-old girl was told that she was that her father, who was not her biological father, would no longer be financially responsible for her. She was, quote, devastated. That perhaps stands as a stark example of cases in which parents are as keen to ditch their legal status as they are to obtain it. Why is that particularly relevant in this case? Because we're talking about an argument to open up who can apply, but that means, of course, that we make it more flexible to opt in to be a legal parent. The consequences of that, of course, must also be that it will be easier for those who should be paying to opt out. Um, in terms of how child maintenance itself works, I've already suggested that both altering who and how you calculate that would turn the system on its head overnight. Let's very quickly take an example. Lily, James, and Hermione are in a polyamorous relationship. They use Lily's egg, they use James's sperm, and Lily carries the baby. Hermione has no biological link, and she but they agree between them, rather a la Canada style, that they will all be legal parents, because that is something that we've now allowed in this country. If the throuple, as it were, broke down and they reach an arrangement where Harry spends 4 nights with Lily, 2 with James, and 1 with Hermione, questions already rise as to who would need to pay child maintenance. Although it's provided for under Section 26 of the Child Support Act, the vast majority of children know who should be paying, who the non-resident parent is, based on simple biology. The widening of who a legal parent can be, in my view, creates anomalies. If Lily is caring for the child for 5 nights per week, she will need financial support. But there are 2 non-resident parents. Who does she make an application against? Can she make an application against both? If the non-resident parent, who is also non-biological, seeks a declaration of non-parentage but still has the child in their care for 1 day a week, they can opt out of the legal duty to pay, but for all intents and purposes, they're also a care provider. There are massive questions, therefore, as to what just a tweak to legal parentage does to the who pays. In terms of how, I'm afraid that collapses altogether. The entire system is based on an assumption that there are 2 parents. The formula provides, you look at gross income and you look at the number of nights. But as I've already said, Lily is the resident parent, so she can claim against anybody. The formula doesn't provide for that. Does the parent that has 2 nights a week have to pay the parent that has 4? But does the parent that only has 1 night a week have to pay maintenance to both the parent that has 4 and the other one?
We might need to leave those questions hanging.
I know.
Time.
Oh no, I am out of time. So all I was going to say was that it sounds very, very simple. It isn't, and that this is my closing point, if I may. We think we've had nationality, inheritance, and also child support. A small tweak to legal parentage will have ripple effects in all of those areas. Where is the certainty in that? And I would ask you all to vote clearly against the motion.
Thank you, Simon.